So I'm here to talk about what we call the experience economy, and specifically about the hotel industry, the tourism industry. And we're going to go through a few different things. The first thing, in general, when you look at the internet and what the internet has done to commerce in general, you see that it really commoditizes most products and services that are being sold online. And what I'm saying by commoditization, I'm talking about the fact that when you go to buy something, you don't care as much about the brand because the internet gives you a lot of information to compare it, to shop it, to look at other prices. And that's the first thing that it does. And the second thing it does, it really reduces the emotional attachment during the buying, purchasing process. Those two things commoditize a product. We've seen it in the retail industry, and we see the retail industry already fighting against it by trying to bring the bricks and mortar experience to become more unique and to combine it with the online. We've seen Apple doing it, probably one of the first one. We've seen some retailing like Abercrombie and Fitch that when you go to the store, there is scents and there is music and it feels like a nightclub and it's dark and there are a lot of pictures of naked guys and girls, and that's how they sell their product, and they do it very effectively. We've seen it also in shopping malls, and this has been for probably more than a decade or even two, that you see the one on the top, the picture on the top, is actually a ski mountain in a shopping mall in Dubai. The one on the right is an amusement park. It's the biggest mall of America in the US. The other one is a wave pool in another place. So taking the most expensive real estate and creating an experience to attract people again and again to the mall. And then we see it also proliferating into the service industry, like banking. And we've seen it even in telecommunication and on and on. But surprisingly, we start seeing it also in the hotel industry. And when I'm talking about the hotel industry, I'm using the word surprising because when you go on a vacation and you decide where you want to stay and what destination you want to go to, it's quite a complex process. It requires a lot of research. There is a lot of emotion attached to it. But when you make your decision, especially when you're about to choose your hotel, often we've been seeing it that it's becoming a commodity, meaning you decide to go to New York and you don't really care anymore if it's a Marriott or Hilton. And you have other things that make the decision. So let's talk a little bit more about the hotel industry for the people that are not as familiar with the industry. The industry has three main players. The first one is the asset owner. So it's the person that owns the building. It can be an individual, it can be a bank. The second one is actually the brand itself. So the Hilton or the Istrotel or Leonardo, Marriott, or whichever brand you want. Here are some examples of international brands. And the third one that most people don't understand is the management company, which is not always the same as the brand itself. Now, sometimes you see different combination of the three, that maybe Hilton is the owner and the management and the brand, but sometimes you see it just as one or two or different combination. So let's talk specifically about the brand and what is happening to the brand in the last 20 years. So when we talk about a brand, we look at the brand as a promise. It's a promise of equality. It's something that when I go and I see, okay, it's a Hilton, I know what to expect for, especially in the service industry. Now, the brands provide, in the past it used to provide, and that's the trends we are seeing, that it's diminishing more and more, it used to provide a very strong distribution, meaning that if I have an independent hotel that's called the Rom's Inn, and I want to sell it, it will be very difficult for me to sell it. If I'm a part of the Hilton chain or the Marriott or the Starwood or whatever brand out there, it's much easier because they have a very big distribution. They can sell your rooms. The second thing is actually, again, the promise of a certain quality assurance. You know that you're going to stay there. You know what to expect for. And the third one is actually for the asset owners, it's supposed to bring you a higher return. However, the last 20 years, we've seen three major massive changes in the industry. Some people call them disruption, some people call them innovation, some people call them just pain in you know what, especially if they're in the industry. But the three of them are the following. The first one are the online travel agency, or as we call them in the industry, the OTAs. They are currently dominated by two big players. There are many local players, but they dominate in a very, very concentrated way by two players. One is the Priceline Group that own bookings, and the other one is the Expedia Group that own Hotwire and Travelocity and Orbitz, and they own now HomeAway and et cetera, et cetera. What they've done, really, they took the distribution part and they started, and you see the year there was 96, both of them were established the same year, and they went to independent hotel and said, you know what, we'll give you something for free. We'll give you a distribution and we will market your hotel for free. You never need to pay us. You're just going to give us a rate and we're going to mark it up, and that's how we're going to make the money. Obviously, the hotel industry loved it. They've seen that they're doing very well. Nobody signed exclusivity, and then they went to the other hotel down the road and the other hotel down the road, and then they said, wow, they became so big. So they went to the chains. And they told the chain, look, we get so much traffic, you should join us as well. The chain joined them as well. Some chain went back, back and forth trying to fight it, but basically they got so much traffic, they became so big, and they dominate the distribution, especially on the hotel side. The second thing we've seen is TripAdvisor. And TripAdvisor is by far the most dominant customer review in the industry, but there are others as well. But what we've seen here is something very interesting. Technology-wise, it's not very sophisticated, and it did not really change much, even though they tried to change it. Recently, the biggest change is that they add a booking widget on it, and really, that's no news. But what it did from a brand perspective, it took the notion of promise and it changed it upside down. Because now, if before I wanted to stay in a Hilton because I knew that Hilton will provide me a certain level of service, certain consistency, now I don't care anymore. Because when I'm trying to book, I see, look, there were 600 people that wrote reviews and they said that it's a great hotel. So it's a great hotel. I believe them. I don't care if they said it's a bad hotel, I believe them as well. The power of the review became so strong that today most hotel managers, they pay so much attention to it that it's basically almost the only thing they care about, and sometimes the way they incentivize is the rating on TripAdvisor. Now, these two combined change how we actually purchase hotel. So me specifically, I travel a lot and I like to try different things. So I go on an Expedia site or booking site. I decide which destination I want to go. I sort it by 5-star, 4-star, whatever level I want. And then I go and I sort it as a second sorting by the customer reviews. Now I have the star, which set the expectation. Because you can have very good high review if you are 2 stars, which is very different than high review if you're 5 stars. So you have the star rating and you have the customer review, and now I have both of them and I can choose which hotel I want based on the stars, the review, and the price. The third thing that happened, that's definitely a disruption in the industry, and there is no doubt about it, is the sharing economy. So most people know Airbnb. HomeAway was there even before in 2005. Today, HomeAway is owned by Expedia. Airbnb was established in 2008. And they started as really, they started a little bit differently. HomeAway was more like a vacation rental house. So people that have a second home and wanted to rent it, they wanted to use it when they go on vacation. And when they don't want to go on vacation, they want to rent it and make some, and generate some income. And Airbnb started with more urban cities, the people that had an apartment and they couldn't afford the rent, so they started renting a bed within their living room to help paying the rent, or while they were traveling out of the city. Today they're similar, and they both do, they both do more or less the same. Now, the disruption here is really about the notion of demand and supply. The notion of demand and supply was that in the hotel industry, the supply was fixed most of the time till somebody would build a new hotel, which can take 2 years. But all of a sudden, the supply and the demand changes based on events in the city, based on holidays, etc., etc. When the demand was high, that's where you yield the most out of your hotel, because all the incremental rate goes directly to the bottom line because it's profit. This thing changed because all of a sudden there is way more supply, and demand stay more or less the same, and the supply sometimes even higher when the demand is high, because if I have a house and I'm living in it, you know, and if I can get only $100, maybe it's not worth it for you. But if I can get $300 because there is a big marathon in town, or what festival you have in town, then it's worth it. So I open the availability. However, the interesting thing that most people don't pay attention when they look at Airbnb is actually the fact that they change the experience. So the hotel industry used to dismiss it by saying, okay, that's the economy side, it's the cheap side of our industry. Yes, it's painful, it's challenging, but that's not the issue. But what we have seen here, that through technology, they achieved what hotels always try to do, which is a one-on-one relationship with your customers. You have an owner and you have a guest, and the owner is so dependent on the guest reviews, talking about the TripAdvisor, that they will do whatever need to appease this guest. Not only they need to appease the guest, but they also know everything that is happening in town, and they provide all this great information. So what happened is that all of a sudden the experience in Airbnb became very, very unique, and technology really resolved a lot of all the other operational issues, like getting the keys and opening the door and cleaning, etc., etc. Now, this is actually bringing us to the next thing, which is how can the industry fight it? Now, the issue is that the industry is very old-fashioned, and it needs technology to do it. And what you see here, I mean, that's just an example that you still find hotels that have keys, and actually they have even 2 keys. One is for the room and one is for the safe, just in case you want to steal my key and then go directly and open the safe and take everything I left in the safe. So you see a lot of this stuff still in the industry. And the industry has difficulties implementing stuff into their platform from a technology perspective. So how would the brand will fit into the future? And we look at 4 different elements. The first one, which is already happening, is actually the design of the experience. People that are coming from big brand will have the knowledge to help with the design of the experience, making the experience stick, making the experience unique, first. Second, they know how to make the experience consistent. In our industry, the experience is the product. We sell experiences. And if it's not consistent, it's not a good product. You know, if one day you come and you get one thing, and the other day the service is not as good, and the food is not as good, or the room is not as clean, it's not good enough. Therefore, the consistency is extremely important, and you need to have professional people to do it. The third thing is actually the optimization of the real estate. And in the past, most of the time when you look at real estate, you want to optimize it based on revenue per square feet. I think the future it will be about experience. You need to take your space and think how I can generate all the time unique experiences. In this example, you see this is a small boutique hotel in Barcelona that actually has a bakery in it. So it opens many hours, it brings people from the outside, it smells very authentically, and it gives you breakfast, etc., etc. The other hotel is Delano in Miami. They change the lobby and they make it feel like a nightclub, etc., etc. And the fourth, last but not least, actually the most important one, is the use of emerging technology. In order to create consistency, in order to get scale, you need to use technology. And the big chain will have to be more open-minded and have changed their DNA and become more of a technology provider in order to bring value and bring this technology to make sure that the experience is consistent and designed and cost effective, etc., etc. So to summarize, today, in the future, the choice of room accommodation will not be based anymore on cost and location, but rather on unique experience. The hotel experience will be shaped along the entire length of stay, and one can only have such experience by staying at a hotel. And that will be the stickiness to bring you and stay there versus staying in an apartment next door. And again, last but not least, technology will play a critical role in experience design and delivery, and the industry have to start learning how to embrace it and open it and incorporate into their business. Thank you very much.